First and foremost, gratitude. Okay, gratitude to Tai for this opportunity to interact with people and share and learn. Uh, Gratitude to the audience who've been coming for the last two sessions and for coming for the current session too. And welcome to the third session of the four-part series, the enterprise growth, pains and possibilities. And as Priya said, we'll be talking about people and people management. The speaker is VAIRAMANI Pandiyan, okay, and a long-standing colleague and friend of mine. Pandiyan is HR professional with about 4 decades of experience. He's worked in small companies. He's worked in large companies. He's worked in companies like Kevin Care, Anil Starch, and he was last a director on the board of Ford India, from where he retired. And we've been consulting as Mavens. Now, Pandiyan is my go-to man, like for many others. Okay, whenever I am at crossroads, be it at a personal level, be it at a professional level, he's always a good go-to man. He will question you and probably help you get through your doubts, okay, and show you new ways of looking at old things. That's one. Other than being a HR professional and a senior general management leader, Pandiyan has an interest in photography. Pandiyan has an interest in psychology. Pandiyan has an interest in technology. Now, if he were not a HR professional, I'm sure he would have been an IT professional. So he's a multifaceted character, multi-talented character, and I look forward to interacting with him today. Over to Pandiyan.
Thank you, Nandu. You've been very kind. Everyone can hear me, I suppose. Good evening, Vanakkam. I am very thankful to Tai Chennai and my colleagues and also the people in the audience for this opportunity to be part of this session, where with so many brains here, we will learn something. Yes, I'll be more like a bus driver, but I'm sure everyone here has a lot of useful things to contribute in what is, I think, is probably one of the most important aspects of management. People. Because, you all heard, any speaker, any CEO, business leader, one thing they all, whether they mean it or not, they have to say, people are the greatest asset, which CEO has not said. They all say it, but of course, in practice, some of them actually show it in action, and some companies don't. That actually is a very broader context in which we will be looking at this issue today. So today, what I thought was maybe initially for 15-20 minutes, I'll speak. I will lay out some broad themes at a high level, and then later on in the interactive session, questions either from Nandu or the conversations I had with him or from the audience, we will go into more details about some of the practical aspects of managing people very well. So that's the format that we will do. You are welcome to send your questions. Either you raise hand using the option or you put it in chat. Somebody is monitoring the chat. We will try to cover as much as possible the thoughts, ideas, and questions from the audience. Okay, starting off, I said something about leaders saying people are our greatest asset. In the course of my experience, and I am sure in all your experience, you would have heard a lot of statements like these. Oh my God, we are firefighting all the time. There is hardly any time to do anything useful. We are, jumping from one crisis to another. You heard this? Sometimes leaders complain, there are very few good managers. I don't have good people. I try hard, but I don't get good people. Sometimes leaders, they are very frustrated. They say, my God, if I have to do something, I have to do it myself. At the same time, we have heard employees talk about, I wish we had 30 hours in a day. There is not enough to do the work. Or they say, my God, this company meetings are, so boring, so annoying, take up all the time. In fact, the company worked in Ford Motor Company, FMC, it used to be called. So people internally used to call it Ford Meeting Company. And I think that's the case with many companies, not all. And people complain about, oh, there is no camaraderie in this company. Or leaders say, we plan, we have vision, we have plans, we decide, but ultimately no action. Things don't happen. So we hear all these statements from many people in many companies. What do they all mean? Most of the time, people really mean what they say. These are real, truthful statements, honest statements people are making, whether it's the leaders or this. They don't mean any, they don't have a wrong intention in saying it. They're expressing the frustration. Now, I would like to look at these statements as possibly symptoms of something else. You know what a symptom is like? When you have a pain, you have some temperature, you go to a doctor. For the doctor, your temperature or pain is not the problem. Doctor may give you a paracetamol or a painkiller, whatever, to manage the symptom. But a good doctor always knows symptom is not the problem. There is an underlying cause. It points to a deeper problem. It could be like most of the time, the temperature may mean, okay, simple, viral flu will go. But it can also mean a bad infection. It could be something more serious. So these statements, when people say it is a problem, we need to attend to those symptoms. If people are fighting fire, we need to help them. But there is something that we need to go beyond what the real problem is. If I walk on the shop floor of a factory, I find oil lying on the ground. Clean it up so that people don't slip and fall. I can attend to it. If 3-4 days a week, again and again it happens, there is something else happening there. Do we not train our workers very well? Do we not give them proper aids? Or maybe the pipeline above is leaking. So we have to fix the real problem rather than attending to it. So this is the subject matter we will explore today. How do we go beyond looking at the symptoms? When we look at the organization, symptoms are good. They're useful to tell you that you need to attend to something more serious. In that sense, it's good. Since it gives you a sense of what you're facing with. And it gives you a good clue as to what more we need to look at. So in this context, the broad themes I would like you to consider. The first one, companies grow. They grow in size, in number of people, the revenue, turnover, profit, branches, so on. Companies grow in size and complexity. People who have studied organizations, most of the time what they have found is the corresponding growth in people infrastructure does not happen in companies. There is a growth going this way, people infrastructure is lagging behind. Now, what is this infrastructure? Infrastructure is not simply that we all know as the company grows, more people join, you pay more salary, you have more employees. But people infrastructure is not simply the number of employees and the wage bill. People infrastructure refers to all the aid and support that we give so that company has systems to get the right people, put them on the right job, induct them properly, train them properly, equip them properly, and we have means of identifying all the coordination issues which come when number of people grow. we do not pay enough attention to the people infrastructure as we grow in size. We think people will understand. They, after all, we are recruiting adults. They know what's required. Doesn't always happen. So, as managers, leaders, one important thing we will have to look at is how do we look at people infrastructure? What is it in our company? Is it commensurate with our size and the complexity of business? Are we doing enough? There used to be an interesting TV program some time ago. CEOs of various companies, they go on disguise and work in the front line. Okay? Sometimes people recognize them, sometimes they don't. So they go work in a warehouse, loading crates and things like that. There was one interesting episode in which Barista, I think that company has changed hands, changed form now. Barista CEO went to one of the coffee outlets and he worked as a customer service representative. He was, serving customers coffee. Obviously, of course, he is a very learned, educated man, capable, experienced man, but he was not someone who has worked in a coffee shop before. How to brew coffee from those complicated machines and different orders, different variants of coffee. So there was this girl, young girl, who was there with him, helping him. So he has a tough time, but he manages because the girl tells him, you do this, you don't do that, and everything. So as a good worker, first day employee, he follows her orders, his instructions. At the end of the day, he feels very pleased. He has done a very good job. So as he is leaving, he tells the girl, I think I did a fairly good enough job for day one, right? So the girl tells the CEO, yes, I would say so. But remember, you had me helping and training you this day. When I joined, I didn't have anybody like that. And leaves it at that. Now, invariably after these visits, these CEOs go back to their boardroom, call all the managers and process all that they have learned and observed. So in the discussion, what emerges was, people realize our baristas who are in the forefront, serving, taking customers' orders, serving them, looking at them, smiling at them, answering them. Sometimes, customers are rude, handling all this. How well are we equipping them? He had a very good person to train. He was fortunate. He was able to do a good job. But the girl said, I didn't have anybody like that. Now, whose responsibility it is to make sure it happens in the front line? Who indexes them? Who trains them? Who thinks they are ready to serve the customer? Who makes them feel confident? So the leaders have to do this. So people infrastructure is the first theme I want you to keep in mind. We will go more into it as we discuss. Let us go to the second theme that I would like you to consider. When I was discussing with Nandu, I tossed a term, leadership flexibility or leadership evolution. In fact, he said, no, you should talk about leadership evolution. Essentially, what it means is, as parents, we have, when you have children, they are babies, they become toddlers, they become teenagers, then, they become young adults, and so on, they grow. So for most leaders, companies are something like that. They grow. Now, all of us who know parenting very well, we know that the way we interact with the child could be our own son or daughter. For us, they will always be our baby, our dear baby, even if they are, 40 years old and they have their own children. But the way we interact with them has to necessarily change if we have to have, give them opportunity to develop fully. How we will take care of the baby, because baby is totally dependent. You have to do everything yourself. Baby can only cry and demand, can't do anything more. But as they become toddlers, it's something more. Most of the time, they can take care of feeding themselves, but they have questions. They will, trouble you with so many questions, and they will pester you. How you deal with them? How do you keep them occupied, engage them? As teens, they want to become adults. They are not adults. They are frustrated. They are trying to figure out for themselves. They will be moody. They won't talk to you. But how do you still communicate with them? If you try to do the way you have done when they are younger, most of the time you will find that it is not very effective. Now, many leaders, how much flexibility they have in growing with the organization. When I start a company, it's all crisis, and we have a point to prove. We have burning ambition. People close to me, we all are so involved, invested in the project. We do everything. There is no job description, nothing. We do everything to make the company work. At that time, you have a style of leadership because you are facing, so much of pressure. As you grow, company has a little more formal structure. There are departments, there are different heads, different managers. Is your style evolving or flexible to deal where you may have to delegate, you may have to let go. Sometimes you have to do psychological counseling to somebody who is capable but not confident. Sometimes you have to go and explain the basics to someone because that person doesn't know. So many things you may have to deal as a leader. All the management textbooks, anybody who goes to MBA program or reads management textbook, the first thing they will tell you is who's a leader, who's a manager. There'll be one column saying leaders do all this, another column saying managers do all this. But in our conversation, most of the time, we mix up both the terms. I read something interesting, quote by someone, which essentially said, managers' job is to persuade people, get people to do things they don't want to do. Effective manager will get people to do what they don't want to do. Leader's job is a little different. Leader's job is to inspire people to do things which they think they cannot do. Managing and inspiration are very different. As the institution grows larger, leaders have to be the source of inspiration. People have to somewhere feel, oh, this is something big that we are doing. All great companies, you just see, you will find that spark in the leaders. Some of them may be charismatic speakers, some of them may not be. But invariably, they are able to convey to people that we are doing something more than a 9-to-5 job. As we grow larger and larger, leaders' job becomes more and more of inspiration and less of managing. Someone else also said, leaders inspire, managers keep the trains running on time. So you have systems, IT infrastructure, people, departments, standard operating procedures to make sure company does. But that's not enough. Leaders still will have to do that. There is a NGO which I was part of, which started in a small way 25 years ago. Today, it's very huge. It runs close to a dozen schools and vocational training centers and so many people. It's grown large. When I talk to some of the people who are directors now, who were part of the original team, sometimes they say, when we started, we didn't have much money. We never got much of donations. We used to go stand in a petrol station and sell tickets for the charity show. We did all that. But look at people today who come into this organization, they expect things to be done. Now, there are two ways to look at this. What they're saying is true. They really work hard when the company was smaller. New people who come in, they do not know what happened at that time. But whose job is to communicate it and see that legacy continues, what this institution stands for. So, leaders have to grow with the organization and have the flexibility of managing many things apart from being a source of all information and ideas. Because in the start, it doesn't matter. Later on, people are going to deliver. So am I putting proper structures and processes in place to equip people, develop people? Am I giving an overall sense of purpose to people? We will maybe talk about a little more about purpose, because I remember in the first session 2 months ago, I was anchored then. Someone asked a question. We will come back to that question. He talked about we had a good idea. We went to a school. We wanted the teachers to help out with that. But the teachers were not really doing anything. He said, I explained. I told them clearly. We told them everything, but they were not listening. We said, we'll come back to it. Maybe we'll talk about that also when we come back. So I would like you to, as we proceed with this discussion, we will keep these two things in mind. Looking at the people infrastructure and its complexities. It's a little different from the IT infrastructure or your distribution infrastructure, because here we are dealing with a very complex entity called human being. And second, the real job of leadership as we grow. Keep these two things in mind. We will also, in the course of the session, I don't want to go into detail because there are so many practical areas of people management that we have to talk about. You know, good ways of recruitment, employee branding, the right way to do training, metrics for people, effectiveness, how do we sense morale, so many things we can talk about. We will talk about it based on the interest and the kind of questions that come up. So keep these two broad themes in mind. With that, let me stop talking. We will have a little more interactive kind of a session. And you are welcome, as always, to use any language that you feel comfortable with. Both Nandu and I can speak in Tamil or English, or I mean, Nandu
Hindi,
can this thing I can understand, and maybe a little speak also Hindi. So let language not be a constraint. With that, let me stop. Nandu, what do you say?
Whatever. Let's open up to some questions now.
First, questions will always take some time, and today we have very few people also, so we may have a more deeper discussion, I guess.
Yeah, so that's the advantage.
Yeah.
Okay, Pandiyan, I just wanted to understand one thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, in today's world, there is this unrelenting chase of productivity. Okay, everyone wants to produce more. Okay, output-based chase. Okay, and all humans are blended with machines and other resources to produce more. In fact, today's workers are more knowledge workers. Okay. They expect more productivity from knowledge workers too. What is your view on this unrelenting chase of productivity? Okay. Where will this go? Where will it lead us to? Okay. And what are the positives? What are the negatives?
So, from the way you phrase the question, unrelenting, the word means, okay, it's not all hunky-dory. Because who can say productivity is bad? Productivity is good, right? More output, less effort. It's always good, right? That's normal the thing. So nobody can deny that we should, we should forget productivity. We can't say that. We need to be looking at productivity. Companies cannot just ignore. The shareholders will not allow it, and tax authorities won't accept it, and we may not be able to pay the bills or salaries. So productivity is definitely important. We need to do better than what we have done before. So in life, we have always seen that things are not always that simple. Well, productivity is important. Most of the time, the question comes, how do we measure productivity? So whenever you want to measure something, you need to have metrics. I think, in my view, the key is looking at the metrics. Are we using the right metrics to measure productivity? That makes a very big difference. I don't know, people who have maybe studied psychology might have heard of, even others, general interest you would have heard of, what people call as McNamara fallacy. McNamara was a US government official during Vietnam War. He was basically directing the America's efforts in Vietnam. And everybody knows what happened in the Vietnam War. US spent a lot, wasted a lot of resources, a lot of people, and at home there was a lot of opposition. It didn't end very well. Later on, people coined this term McNamara fallacy, and they say one thing which US didn't do right was, they said, how do we make sure war efforts are successful? Because only if war efforts are successful, Congress will give you budgets, you can recruit more people and do it. Now, it is very complicated how to say war effort is successful. You are a disciplined army with a lot of firepower and everything, fighting a guerrilla force which is hiding in the jungles, not so well trained, but they are small and slippery. So McNamara said, for me, McNamara used to be a Ford executive, incidentally. He said, data is important. Data is the only thing which matters. So what I can measure, come with me. So they decided the measure is how many of our soldiers died, how many of the opposition soldiers died. Body count was the only measure they used. Senior officials have told him, what about this, what about? He said, no, if you can't measure it, don't come to me. In the process, what happened, very few American soldiers died compared to the number of Vietcong soldiers who died. They kept asking Congress for more money. There was a most infamous project called Project 100,000, where they recruited a lot of new recruits, which later on caused so much of protests in US. Finally, of course, they had to give up all the efforts and come out without achieving their objective. Now, what is the root cause? Because you follow a metric which tells you only part of the story. You just cannot ignore the other parts. In these days, when a lot of people work from home, people want to make sure, I cannot see my workers. As a supervisor, I feel I cannot see them. What do? They want to put computer programs which will measure the screen time, how much time the person spends on which tab, which screen, things like that. That way I know whether the person is, doing work or not. Is it really so? What you're measuring is actually a proxy for working. The traditional managers who work in office, they know that if somebody spends 8 hours in office is not necessarily working 8 hours, doing 8 hours work. So we usually measure the wrong things, and in organization, unfortunately, finance or sales, they have very, very concrete numbers, a lot of things. We are so used to it. When it comes to people, we have very few concrete measures. You can have absenteeism, you can have turnover, you can have, salary contribution, whatever. Some of those metrics you can have. But what about the morale? What about the climate? What about the cooperation? What about, collaboration? You can indirectly measure them. So what is important is not to do away with the metrics, but to understand that productivity is made up of tangible as well as intangible things. We cannot ignore intangibles simply because we cannot measure them. Especially when it comes to people, it becomes a problem. Oh, my employee satisfaction index is this. It is 78 this year. Last year it was 75. So it has improved. Maybe, may not be. Maybe the way in which the questionnaire was administered. So many things. So I think when we talk about productivity, we have to make sure we are not chasing the wrong things in productivity. This topic was discussed even in the previous session with Subir talked about with reference to operations. So I think productivity is a good concept if we have a holistic understanding of what productivity is. Is it only your company profits? Is it only the share price? Is it only attendance? Then maybe, we have very limited view of productivity, because if morale goes down too much, employee training is not happening, people are not happy, one day it's going to crisis, going to strike. So relentless chase is okay as long as we know what we are chasing and we agree on what we are chasing, is my view. I don't know. What do you think?
It's nice, you brought in this thing of productivity, people trying to measure, and it brings to my mind this company called Buffer. Okay, Buffer is a company that makes social media tools. Now, much before the pandemic, 5-6 years before the pandemic struck, they were on a 5-day work week. And they were on work from home, sorry, not 5-day work week. They were on a work from home. They didn't have offices, people worked from home. And productivity was all right. I mean, everyone met their objectives, what they wanted to, revenue objectives were met, all that happened. Now, when the pandemic struck, they actually reduced the number of working days from 5 to 4. Without any loss of productivity, without anyone measuring any of that, how much screen time, which you mentioned. Okay. And when they cut down the working time, salaries were not reduced. Okay. And I think that's a shining example. And I wonder what they do to really get this out of people. I mean, to me, it is really a people management achievement. What are your thoughts on this part?
Yeah, Buffer is a very interesting example. One thing, of course, we have to be careful. What works in a particular company may not straight away. We can't just get the practice and try it somewhere and see whether it works. Because I think, I don't know, in gardening, we all know, I take a cutting from your garden, come and put it in my thing. It may grow, it may not grow. Because it depends on the conditions around, right? The soil, the pH value, how I water, the care that I take, so many other things also. So we have to be careful about that. But leaving aside that, I think if, somebody defined, somebody talked about, all of us go to work. We do put in certain amount of work. Now, under certain conditions, some of us, we go above and beyond. We do what people call discretionary work. Now, this discretionary work can never be forced out of anybody. It comes when certain conditions are met. Only in some companies, this happens. So we can look at, when do people feel like they have to go above and beyond and make sure they take care of their corner of the company. Whether it is communication, checking, instead of saying, oh, this is not my job, oh, he didn't do it. Because all that is an indication that somewhere that company climate is a little needs fixing. If employees are kind of motivated like that, yes, many things will work. Even if they do some other things, it will continue to work. So, I think key thing is, I find sometimes, answer to some of these questions by asking myself, which are the times, which are the projects or where I have gone above and beyond and done some things. And there are times where I feel, okay, this is good enough. What makes me do that? All of us have experienced it. We have done very well in some subjects in school under certain teachers, but not with others. That gives us a clue as to what may kind of, help this. So if you specifically take this Buffer example, certain things, of course, they operate in a kind of, environment which is very amenable for online, distance working and telecommuting and many other such things. It may not always be possible in every other company. Like you may be in food service, you may be in a factory, whatever, it may not. And they also may have the kind of employee demographic, people who are reasonably net savvy, younger people, their aspirations in life are a little different. So there could be all kinds of differences. But one thing which is common wherever these kind of things work is employees don't feel compelled that they have to do a job because it's a contract. There's something in the company they feel, yeah, I like working here because we are doing something worthwhile. That feeling is there. What I do makes some difference. If that happens, I think many of these policies and programs can be more flexible.
What is the role of trust in this?
Trust is a very a big concept.
Yeah.
I don't know, someone says, one way, trust is can never be assumed. It has to be earned. They talk about leaders who follow this, say and do the same, generate more trust. They say something, do something, they don't generate that much trust. Genuine mistakes are not looked upon negatively. When something goes wrong, people look at how do we fix the problem or how do we fix the blame. If that doesn't happen, so in the meeting as a manager, if something goes wrong, I genuinely try to find out what has gone wrong before trying to find out who did it or whatever. Okay, what went wrong? Maybe there was a mischievous employee. Maybe there is some other external factor. More, if we make genuine attempts as leaders, I think people respond. There may be one or two outliers, incorrigible people whom you'll have to deal with differently. But any genuine approach by the leader at the top to look at the issue, not putting people in the defensive, I think generates a lot of trust. Some people are little, more suspicious than others. They will take more time, but usually people come around. In one of the companies I worked in, we thought of an efficiency measure. We have talked about it, seen this before. Every day when people go, those days we didn't have online attendance and all that. Every day people have to go and mark their attendance. So we said, why don't we, default is presence. So employee doesn't have to mark every day as present. When they take leave, they will apply for leave. Faith-based attendance. So we talked about it. Manager said, come on, people will make use of it. They will try to gain the system. Things like that. So we had a lot of discussion, but a lot of people said, everyone comes work in the same place. We all know if somebody cheats, we will know. And 90% of the people do not cheat. Maybe there are few people who will try to do it, and we have systems to find that. We have to deal with them separately. But most companies invariably make rules and processes for catching those 5% of the problem employees and make 95% of genuine employees to go through extra bureaucratic nonsense. Obviously, trust is going to be more difficult in those organizations. So, but as we talked earlier, trust is another intangible. We have to sense it. There is no easy measure. Maybe indirect measures like this might help, but we don't know. There is someone raising the hand.
Yeah, Pragyan. Please unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I have a couple of questions. So first is, how do we hire the right talent? Being a early stage startup, we don't have that much funds to give as a salary. So whomsoever applies, they seem to be very motivated. There is a lot of demand for employer. So we get a lot of applications, but how do we know that this person is going to stick with us, or this has the motivation to stay with us? How do we judge and filter them initially?
Yeah, you raised a very, topical this thing, because this is a problem. Not only startups, even established companies, always face. How do we get the right kind of people? In a country like India, when you put up a job, a lot of applications come. Many of them may not be suitable for you, and it's quite a very rigorous process we have to use to see whether that person fits in with our requirements. First and foremost, what I would say is, most companies, they've been doing recruitment based on the rule book which has been coming from days old. They will say age this, industry this, years of experience this. And I'm not even going into certain biases they may have. Oh, we need to recruit only people of this. Oh, women cannot do the job and this and that. I'm not even going into that. So they have a very, very rigorous criteria which sometimes rules out. These days, talent comes in all forms and ways. So we need to look at what our picking criteria is, which makes sure whatever you have shortlisted, that pool is big enough. They say recruitment and selection work in different ways. Recruitment stage, you want more and more choices. Selection is when you filter it out and come down to what you want. So recruitment stage, sometimes we leave out a lot of good candidates. One large company I worked in, they had a lot of problem with recruitment. Nobody knew why. When you actually go, the person who's doing the early shortlisting, because it's a big company, glamorous name and all that, any job, so many applications will come. So it is a big job to reduce the number. Oh, they were leaving out anybody above 25, not eligible. Not eligible. We have to have a cutoff at 25. Why? No, when they come in, somebody will be 22, 23, they will be 26, they are too old, so they will not fit in. All kinds of imaginary this thing. So one is looking at all that so that you have the best pool. But more importantly, the selection. If you have picked out the best possible this thing, the selection, that is where one is, more we know about our own company, the passion, what drives our company, the way we talk to the candidate, we can find out whether there is a resonance. This happens not only during interview. I'll come to the interview. Interview stage, you are having a one-on-one close conversation with the person. Even before you get the correspondence from the candidate or a phone call or other messages, how much of it is simply, boilerplate kind of responses? How much person has made extra effort to find out more about you, about the job before applying? These all give little clues. They may not straight away tell you they take the candidate, but little clues. Most people blindly apply, send in a CV. That means they have not taken extra effort to look at who you are, what your company is. Many candidates in the interview, when you ask them what questions you have, they have no questions. What research have you done? They have done no research. These days, so much of material is available on the web for anybody to find out so much about others. If I am applying to a company, even today as consultant, sometimes, first thing I do when a company sends an inquiry is, Nandu does his research, I do my research. I go to sites like Glassdoor and there are a few others, past employees, what they have said about the company. Many company HR people don't know these sites exist. Their past employees are writing comments like this. Well, it may be true, it may not be true, but it gives you an understanding. So a lot of information is available. So one is how much the person has put in extra effort. Even before you meet the person for the first time, find out extra effort for your company, for the job, or for the product, whatever idea. That gives you a very clear indication of whether that person is little more, showing initiative. And in the interview, obviously, you have to test the interview, the person for the essential technical qualifications. You have to do that. You may do a test, you may do an interview or a technical expert. But most of the time, let the people speak. Most interviewers ask very closed questions, ask open questions. Let people speak. When people speak more and more openly, it is very difficult for them to put up a front. They will contradict themselves. Usually, the questions that HR experts would suggest to you would be open. How did they handle this? In their view, what it is, what kind of problems or challenges, what failures they have faced, and what they did with it. Ask them to go into it. It will give you a lot of, you don't have to be a psychologist at all. All of us are very good psychologists when we really listen to the person. We will understand where the person is coming from. We will find a lot of softer elements about a person. If it's the question of choosing A, B, and C, you will know where there is a little edge. In my experience, right through, Nandu has been part of some of these also. Many times, what other people rejected, we said this person has promise. Invariably, it turned out to be so. But that person would have been rejected in the normal system. In my experience, many people who are going to be fired from the company, we actually found that they were simply in a different job. So companies sometimes take HR decisions by algorithms. You can use algorithms, computer algorithms, you can't avoid them. But remember, they have limitations, and human judgment, real listening, and giving an opportunity for the person to speak. This is one part of it. Other part, many companies say war for talent, this, that, and so on, but they are not exploring all avenues. Nandu asked me the other day, why people are not employing people returning to work. In our society and culture, women leave employment when they get married or they have a child. But after a few years, when their life is more settled, they want to come back. Many companies make it so difficult for them to come back. Oh, age difference, this, that. But actually, many of them would turn out to be a lot more this thing, because you have given them an opportunity to come back. Second career women, it could be even disabled people. Yes, someone with hearing impairment cannot do certain jobs, but they can do a whole lot of other jobs your company can do. You give a job to a person, they will be so motivated to do work. Vision impaired people, they can do a lot of jobs in many companies. They may not be able to do all the jobs, but they can do many jobs. The first company I worked in, a huge factory employing 6,000 people. The technical training officer was blind in both eyes. He was a factory manager. At the age of 40, he had an accident and lost his eyesight. But he knew the whole plant like the back of his hand. The process, the machinery, equipment, manufacturer, technical issues, everything. He was able to do a much better job than any other training officer they could have employed. So looking at non-traditional areas of recruitment, where your competitors may not be thinking of. Other thing is recruitment. A lot of companies do not understand, because we are all so used to that 9 to 5, 8-hour jobs and so on, we don't look at part-time employment. All jobs cannot be done part-time. A CEO cannot be two CEOs, but job sharing can be done with many jobs. You will find many more people ready to come to your company if they are able to work only 4 hours a day. Same job, 4 hours this person, 4 hours that person. Today, tools are available in plenty, how you can coordinate so that they can work better. Flexible work schedules and all that companies know. So recruitment needs to be relooked at. And I would suggest in recruitment interviews, a company champion has to be there. In the initial period, it's possible. Later on, you have to have many champions, they are there. People who do the interviews cannot be doing it as a mechanic routine. Oh, I have done technical interviews, I will do this. They don't listen to the people. They don't look at the people very closely. They know what answers they are expecting. Make sure there are company champions who are passionate about the company in the interview. They can sense the passion in the other person better. These are some of the.
I'd like to
add,
like to add one thing. Especially when you're getting onto the selection stage. When a person has come for a job, the person's objective is to get the job. So they will say a lot of nice things of why they are suited for the job. They'll be doing a lot of selling. But after they get the job, then the problem is about suitability, Can they do the job? So it's very important not to make the mistake and fall for the selling line. Okay. Therefore, really understand if this person is serious about what they are talking. Okay. And not given completely to whatever they have said. Do checks and cross checks in your interview itself to see whether the person has achieved these things in the past, whether the person has enjoyed doing these things in the past. Those are things you must do at the interview stage, because till they get the job, everything is honky-dory. After they get the job becomes a problem for them. Okay. So I think we should bear this in mind while we are in the selection process. This is what I wanted to add.
One more thing we can do, which is becoming more and more common, is earlier, of course, I apply for a job and they give me an appointment letter. Then, till I'm retired or sacked, it holds. We don't have to have. Now it is common in many industries. It should be possible in many other industries. You give a test assignment to a person. They do a project. You pay them for it.
Oh, wonderful.
Then you have a better chance of assessing them and their work. And all jobs, it may not be possible, but okay, in the olden companies also, that's why they used to have the probationary period and things like that. But it became more a formality than anything else. But these days, even in marriage, that's what youngsters do, right? You don't get married immediately. You test out before you actually commit. So I don't know, Pragyan, how does it sound to you? What has it made any sense?
Yes, sir. I think a lot of new things I came to know about open-ended questions and the assignment. And as Nandu sir mentioned, that we should cross-check them with whatever they are saying, and they should enjoy in the past. Suppose we are looking for a certain role and they have done it in the previous organization, did they enjoy it or not? We should be able to see that in the interview process coming out.
Sensitive.
I think those are very great points to be noted.
Thank you.
And in the later stages, don't forget doing research on social media. Today, most people have a public life.
Sir, correct. Definitely.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
Sir, this is Jawahar, sir.
Hello, Jawahar.
Yes, sir. Hi, sir. Good evening to both of you. Sir, like you said, the probationary period, right? To me, that is the best way to go about it, to find the capability caliber of a candidate, is to give them 90 days time and then give them some projects, and then see how they perform. I know a company in Chennai who do this. They don't even look at the resume. They just say, okay, come and join tomorrow, and then start your work. And then they give small projects each day and see their performance for 90 days. And if they don't perform, they automatically get kicked out. And then if they do well, then immediately they get a full-time job, and the salary is also increased 5-fold. So that's the best way to go about it, sir.
Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, this, there is, most of us use browsers like Firefox and Chrome and all that. There is a lesser known browser called DuckDuckGo, right? It's a search engine also. They offer jobs like this. They don't have an interview. They give you an assignment to do and they pay you for it. At the end of that, yes, we will talk what your capabilities are, what kind of jobs we have, what kind of this thing, whatever. After seeing your profile, they do that. So it is becoming more and more common. And remember, candidates also sometimes, just like it's not like olden days, candidate is the receiving end. No, they also want to see, are you a good enough company for me? They want to, they ask those questions, right? So a lot of such things, especially younger, newer, smaller companies can experiment, and larger companies will have a lot more difficulty.
There's
comment replace. What did you mean?
What I wanted to type was pre-placement offers.
Pre-placement offers, which is what
I
he
missed
just,
out the P.
Jawahar just spoke about it.
Yeah.
So, sir, one more question I have for Mr. Pandiyan is, sir, you spoke about morale, right? So how do I actually, measure morale? Is there a good, metrics to measure morale of a employee?
First, let's get the easier thing out of the way. Yes, typically companies they have indirect measures of morale, because you can never have a very direct measure of morale. Indirect things somewhere, okay, it could be a third party conducted survey. You do it historically year after year, similar format, that gives you some indication. Okay, and sometimes there are a lot of negative indicators of morale. High turnover, high absenteeism, sick leave, exhausted by everybody. All those are negative indicators of morale, right? Unless there is some other problem which is causing that. You will have to find out. If there is no other specific reason for those, then it indicates morale. Morale obviously is what? The feeling of well-being. Oh, Monday morning I should be able to, I should go to work today. In the workplace, I have good people who will be friendly and helpful to me. If I have that feeling, my morale is high. My supervisor is trying to help me. Even when he is, kind of scolding me, he is trying to improve me. If I go with that, my morale is high. So when morale is high only, I will do discretionary effort. But like some of the symptoms that we talked about, which indicate maybe, people are doing only contractual work, not discretionary work. So while indicators of morale could be, Gallup can do the survey for you, third parties can do. Most of the time, companies prefer third parties to come and do the survey, though companies themselves can also do it. And you can also have, just like we learn a lot from marketing friends. They do not only survey, they do kind of more focus group work. Somebody, a neutral person comes, talks to a cross section of employees, finds out what the issue is, what is really kind of, causing them stress and problem, whatever. They can give you a lot of this thing. But many of them will once again be qualitative factors. And last, we come to one more thing, which is very funny. If I say it, you won't believe it. But you and I and everybody else, sometimes we have visited a company. We are going there to meet somebody. So we go to the reception, we are asked to wait. At 10 minutes in the reception, you observe very keenly. A lot of things about the company you will know. The security guard is there, the reception is there, maybe some employees are walking around, talking among themselves, this, that. You can sense differences between companies. And it is only a small sample of, 5-10 minutes you're sitting there. But studies have shown a lot of candidates for recruitment who spend a lot of time waiting for, to be called for interview or given the results. They form a lot of judgments about the company during that time. So HR experts will tell you when you design induction program, don't think induction is only after the company person has joined, but when the person has shown an interest in joining the company. Induction program has to start at that time itself. So how well you train your receptionists and security guards? Do people feel that they are walking into an organization which is a human organization? It has warmth, it has friendliness, but yes, it's also business. So it's like that. There was a Bruce Willis movie, Sixth Sense. You remember, some of you might have seen it. There is a young boy there. He has a very peculiar ability. He can see dead people. So in one of the training programs I attended, somebody said, you need to have people in your organization who can see dead people, which basically means you sense things which are not very obvious or evident to anybody. But you train yourself. All of us attend meetings. Some of the meetings where you are not a crucial participant, try to observe the meeting conducted by A to meeting conducted by B to see what the mood of the person is. Forget about the decisions they have taken and the numbers and other things. You will actually find, when you observe, you will find a lot of things. What is the mood of the people? So while morale, you have some of those concrete measures which you can do. But I would always encourage people, whether they are HR leaders or company leaders, that you need to have a lot of people observing the intangibles as well. That will add to your data. It will help you make sense of the pulse data, Gallup data, whatever.
So is there a
keep track of Glassdoor, and there are 3 other this thing like this. What your ex-employees say, because ex-employees don't have a stake in the company, right? Some of them may badmouth the company for a specific one single incident. That may be possible, but by and large, it will give you a good flavor.
So is there not any objective way of doing this, like in a scale of 1 to 10 of like what is the morale? Is there any?
Yeah, the satisfaction surveys that you do, they give you numbers. They have different dimensions in which you can talk about morale, and then it will tell you what your number is in terms of percentage. They will talk about net promoter score. Net promoter score is like, suppose one question that you ask, how many people you will recommend, how on a scale of 1 to 5, where you will be, how strongly you are likely to recommend this company to a friend. Okay, people can say 5. That means they're very likely, they are your evangelists. Or people may say 1. No, I will not recommend anybody to this company. And people may be in between. Net promoter score is just the difference between the positive and the negative. And year on year, you track how the net promoter score is moving, especially when you've taken many people initiatives. All companies have people problems, but companies take initiatives. Okay, let me do this. It's not simply a wage revision or salary revision. It could be many other things, welfare facilities, or you conduct open house, you improve communications, you train managers to manage their time better. You may do those initiatives and measure whether there is a movement. Employee measures, only thing is you have to see it historically. One slice of data hardly gives you anything, because we are dealing with a very vague, nebulous subject. Moods, feelings, emotions of people, for which I don't think anybody can truthfully say that they have a 100% objective measure. You can have only indirect to indicative measures. So all these pulse surveys and exit interview scores and all that will give you those indirect measures. Make sure you balance it with what you sense, what key people sense. I don't know. How does it sound to you? What's your take?
Who was it? That was Pragyan.
Jawahar, right?
Or Jawahar.
Yes, for me. Yes, sir. I mean, so I thought you were asking Mr. Nanda.
No.
Okay. No, for me, I'm a startup. So, basically I want to measure it objectively and then see how I can improve, the morale of my employees. So
how many employees do you have, if I may ask, roughly?
I'm just building my factory right now, sir. I'm not even have hired employees. I'm in the process of building my factory.
My suggestion would be, in the initial period, keep it a little more informal. Because bigger companies cannot do that. A lot of big companies do all these surveys simply because it's physically impossible for their senior leaders to be directly in touch with their employees. But you have that advantage. Your key managers have that advantage. Be in touch with people.
Okay, sir.
And as you become larger, you need to put these other things, periodic surveys. Then you look at, other data coming through you through performance management system, through exit interview systems. All that, techniques are available in plenty. Any web research will give you 1,000 formats. You can pick and choose. But my only submission is, ultimately, you have to, any objective measure, you will have to overlay it with the judgment of well-intentioned, good sense managers, leaders you have.
Okay, sir.
Recently, my fellow consultant got an assignment from an organization, very large organization, fairly, financially strong, but they were getting into a new business. It's an FMCG business. FMCG business is always fast-moving consumer goods. It's complicated, right? They said, we have invested a lot of money. We know manufacturing very well. We know, quality control, and we have R&D. Our products are good. We have made a sales and distribution network, but sales are not happening. So they want to hire you. They wanted to hire him as a consultant. I said, okay, the deal was on. So they said, okay, next week we will have a boardroom meeting. We'll call all senior managers and all that. So my friend, the consultant, what he says, no, you postpone it by a week. Next 4 or 5 days, I am going to go to the market and travel with your sales representatives. Okay. So he goes to Madurai, takes a flight. The sales representative comes on a motorbike, takes this consultant in the pillion, and they work the market the whole day. He does it for 5-6 different routes with different SRs in different regions and whatever. And he told the managers, I will come and talk to you after I have done this work. So obviously, senior managers, he is not going to talk about what he heard from SR, what he heard from the distributor or retailer or whatever. He's going to talk sales strategy. He's going to talk about sales structure. But lot of it is going to flow from this go see exercise because he can put many things in context. Otherwise, many of the managers would know what is an appropriate sales distribution structure. His thing is why it is not working. He will be able to convince them much better because he has a first-hand idea of what it is. So you have that advantage of being a small startup. So you do that. Later on, as you grow larger, yes, you may have to necessarily deal with second-hand information. Then also maybe as a barista CEO, go on disguise.
Okay,
There was a time when I worked in a large factory. There were worker programs we were working on. You know, one thing what we decided, all senior managers, including the managing director, will spend one full shift in the assembly line, working as a worker. So whether it's a managing director or me, we reported at the start of the shift. We report to the shift supervisor who gives you a job, explains what you need to do. He treats you like a new worker. We do the job that the worker does. What does it do for us? That day, you know, incidentally, I used to long for the tea break, you know, because so much tension in my mind. I should be the one to stop the line. We used to wait for the lunch break and I ate so heartily. And that night I slept so well. But every manager, when they came back, they had a different view of what work in the assembly line means. All of them are engineers, managers with experience, years of experience, but they had a new perspective. Now, startups and small companies have this very big advantage. So the programs and others you make could be for the people who are working, so that you do less work and they have the discretionary work and they have that passion. They do more lifting. But most of the time, as leaders, we want to do the heavy lifting ourselves. Then we complain, oh, people don't do, they don't, you know, I can't delegate, they can't do it. It's simply because they don't share or we don't see the world like they do.
Thank you, sir.
For too long. Sorry, Nandu.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Let's stop it.
Acha, Raju.
Somebody has.
Raju, please,
Yes,
please unmute and ask your question.
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir. Good
evening.
Pandiyan, sir, Nandakumar, sir. Both of you great, and my greetings to all participants. Very, very insightful, very useful session. That your thoughts are very great. Non-traditional method of sourcing and indirect indicatives are very good, fantastic. Every, each and as Javagar sir also raised this question. Every issue is unique, sir. So we actually took a lot of efforts to have, we have a program called Visitor Delight. We don't have visitor here. No, we are in the service industry. We are into employment background screening. So we have a program called Visitor Delight. All visitors are only candidates. Okay, these millennial kids or Gen X. So they're all, their thought process is quite difficult to understand. So we have some skill set, required skills. We describe determine certain skill sets and behavioral sets. But it is quite tough for us to identify those skills or behaviors from them. So we try to, as rightly pointed out some time back, we try to trigger out the appropriate questions to pull out the exact facts. But again, they manage, across the table, across, during the interview process, they manage what would be the right answer, what would be the ideal one or something. So when it comes to real work, it was a real surprise for us. See, nowadays, lot of some websites also there, how to crack the interview or not. So, and as you said, Glassdoor, we took a few efforts also to improve our, get a good Google review. And, in Visitor Delight program also, we actually offer, we don't have good ambience, very well ambience here, but we manage, somehow. But we greet them and we offer some water and then tea or coffee. And then we used to ask them, is there any hurdle to find out the address or something like that? So how do you feel or something, but try to make them happy. But end of the day, they manage somehow to show their best part, and then is there any, do you some more, throw some more lights on, is there any ways to find out competency-based interview questions, or in sourcing method? You are talking about non-traditional method of sourcing. So, is there any possibility to determine the behaviors which is required for a particular job role from the resume? Or any other, you also some time back you said, don't believe social media. So is there any way to search the particular behavior set or skill set from the resume or something like that? For example, for a sales guy, we actually used to check in the resume whether he was having any coordination activity with any cultural program in the college during college days, or whether he was any people leader or something kind of, whether he has got any people skill or something like that. Could you throw some light? Is there any possible way for competency mapping before interview? And so at this time of sourcing, supply chain management in sourcing or supply chain management in recruitment. Could you please throw some more light, sir, please? Both of you.
So it's good. I fully agree with you. Today, if I go on the web, I have thousands of websites saying how to crack an interview. They have listed all possible questions interviewers will ask, and they give you all possible answers. Some of them, well thought out. Some of them are just because. Now, interviews from interview side, we shouldn't ask cliched questions. We have to always have, our own set of questions. But these days, depending on what you want to assess, interview is not the only method to select or judge competencies. Usually, interview may not be the best way to assess competency. If it is specific competency that you want to test, there has to be other ways of doing it. It depends. I don't know whether you are trying to measure their general, analytical ability, ability to manipulate numbers or logical reasoning, or some of those, mental faculty, or whether it is some specific kind of coding skills. Some of those skills you may have to nothing short of, the earlier verified projects or skill tests are the only way you can administer properly. That is the only way to do it.
Sorry, sir. Skill is we can develop, sir. Behavioral aspect. I'm more
behaviorally. What do you want to? The question comes: what do you want to check behaviorally?
So we have certain behavioral aspects,
Right.
sets, for certain roles, basic minimum behaviors.
Such as?
Example.
Oh, example. Okay. See, for example, every mostly in HR, there is a case study where everybody says Taj Hotel, Mumbai, when some terrorist attack, all the employees ran away. So they are in the process of safeguarding their guests. Okay, so there is a case study, and even throughout website, the internet that is there. So the process of their sourcing is very unique. They used to go to the 2-tier, 3-tier cities, and they check the candidate should be from a joint family, and they should behave. They should respect elders. So this is the minimum qualities they are expecting, and they are sourcing them. There is a separate team, went to the 2-tier or 3-tier cities, and they check these kind of behavioral qualities. If it is there, they will just select. The selection process or sourcing process. Similarly, I just want to is there any possible ways to?
In your company, have you developed a list of competencies, various dimensions or something like that unique to your company, which is tied to your business or your business objective?
Yeah, and we are just trying. Now only we got this kind of...
So the recruitment part of it will come after you develop, the competencies which will promote good, work output, because it leads to your company goals.
Okay.
Because competencies could vary. Like some companies will care about, do they respect elders? Some other companies would care about something else, right?
Yes.
Company to company, it could be different.
Yes.
So respecting elders, I won't say is a competency. It is kind of,
It's a behavioral aspect.
Behavioral aspect.
It is an indication of something. It's not a competency. Competency is a capability which is skill plus something else and the willingness to do it. Okay. So if you develop your own set of competencies, then you can look at what are the ways of measuring it.
Okay.
Some of it may involve some test, which is usually a kind of situational study. Many of these large companies, that's what they do. They give a case or they give a role play or they give something like that and assess the behavior.
Disc profiling you are referring?
No, not disc profiling is a questionnaire, but they will have, but only thing is, remember, these are fairly expensive processes because most of the time, some of these things will have to be done by someone with a lot of training in behavioral sciences. It can't be done by anybody because you see, even a simple thing like group discussion, many managers do not know what to make out. Oh, this person talks quite a lot. He has a lot of leadership, somebody would say.
Okay.
But for all you know, the great leader might be sitting there because he finds this entire discussion stupid and he doesn't feel like participating.
Okay.
So we have to be very careful.
Obviously.
So what I would say is, first, you be clear about what is it that you specify. These are the behaviors that we are looking for because these make up these add up to these competencies, and these competencies are important. Not because you have to have a competency model.
Okay.
Then you will have to look at recruiting people. And invariably these days you will have to always, you can't, interviews are more like final this thing rather than selection methods. You have to have other group exercises or these assignments that you give people, observe them, nothing like an assignment. There are jobs for which you can get people to do it. If you want people to really assess people psychologically on a behavioral scale and things like that, you may not, till you reach a very large scale size, you may not have enough people, you employ enough people with that kind of training. All of us think we are psychologists, but not necessarily, isn't it?
Okay, yes.
So my suggestion is first you work out your competency framework, which is not because everybody has a competency framework. You truly believe this competency framework leads to better work performance because it leads to better business objective.
Okay.
And competency framework is not today. A lot of if you give the job to a wrong HR person, what they will do, they'll go to the web. They'll find a lot of models. They'll pick and choose, cut and paste, and give you this is a competency framework.
Okay.
No, you have to do it for your company because of your business objective, your unique set of your managers, leadership style, the leaders style, and your customers and clients. You may require something. You may be working in security. You may be working in food business. You may be working in some other thing. So it may be very specific to your business.
Obviously.
But we cannot simply borrow from somebody else. Most of the time, this is a mistake a lot of HR make. They cut and paste models from somewhere else and say, oh, this is what it is.
Yes.
And incidentally, I don't know, as an aside, respect for elders, I won't say that youngsters today do not respect elders. Only thing I will say is their way of showing respect would be very different.
And I just give the example.
I understand. Because when I worked in a US company, a worker would come and talk to me and call me Pandiyan. My brother, who is just 5 years younger to me, who's been a big, runs companies, he will not call me by name. He will never argue with me at home. Okay, so a lot of things are respect in others. We have to understand ways people show respect is different. Real respect is different. So those issues are there. That is why when we see something happening in some other company, we'll have to see what it actually means. Is it fully relevant to us? Is it directly applicable to us? Or we need to think through what our situation is in comparison to their situation. So maybe separately we can have very specific discussion about this thing, but that's what I would like to think. Nandu, you want to add something?
No, I think you've been reasonably clear in this. So
yes, sir, it is well taken.
Competencies are custom to the user, to the organization, and therefore you can't superimpose one on the other. It has to be studied, defined, and understood. And only after that can you measure or understand in some way whether prospective candidates possess those competencies.
So one thing, Mr. Raju, always make sure, when it comes to recruitment selection, lots of tools and techniques are available. Many of them, you make sure your people are well versed with it before they employ them. Okay?
Yes, sir. Great, sir. Right. See, we don't rightly said we don't want to recruit only from Naukri. We want to have some supply chain management system, based on the requirement. You see, everybody, we work with a lot of placement agencies also. They just want to match the JD. But they end up sending a lot of people, but we find very hard. Thank you, sir. Definitely. Let me work it out. Thank you.
So, Priya, we have 5 minutes left.
Yeah, we have time for one last question. Hello? Someone was asking something. I'm sorry.
We are supposed to hand over to Priya 5 minutes. Priya,
Yeah.
Kapil, 5 minutes before.